Alright, hello and welcome back to my electric Land Cruiser. So I've just been getting inundated with questions about this thing. As you know, it looks different than the last time you saw it here on my channel. The reason for that is because last year I was really jamming hard to get this thing running so I could get it to Cruise Moab, which was the 25th anniversary of the event of Land Cruiser meetup out in Moab, Utah. So I got the truck out there to Moab. It did awesome, it did amazing. I've got tons of footage and I've just not been able to catch up and get the footage edited. That's my biggest hang up right now. So I wanted to just do a little video update, let you know where I'm at right now, what's coming up in the future, and then also I was going to put the word out to anybody who might want to volunteer their services as a video editor to help me get back on track with my videos. I've just not been having the amount of time necessary to do the editing with everything else going on in my life, and then of course not just the electric vehicles, but family, friends, dogs, all sorts of stuff has been getting in the way. So I want to get focused back on my YouTube channel and really show you guys what I've been doing, because the last time you saw this truck we just tore it apart and there was nothing going on. It was just an empty shell, but now it's a running and driving vehicle that we did off-roading in Moab. So I thought today I'd do a little quick update, let you know the situation on the truck, the YouTube channel, and then also I printed out a bunch of comments that I haven't been able to get to. I wanted to go through the questions that you guys sent and do a little Q&A here. So let's go ahead and get started on that. Alright, so Luis Castro asks, what's the range and how much for the whole conversion? So I haven't done a ton of driving with it yet, but I've driven enough to know it'll go about 60 to 70 miles on a charge. Remember, this is a 30 kilowatt hour battery from a Nissan Leaf, so we're getting about 60 to 70 miles, which is probably about half of what you would get in a Leaf. And as for the total cost of the conversion, I'm guessing I'm somewhere around $15,000, maybe $20,000. That includes the vehicle, the Land Cruiser, the donor vehicles, the Nissan Leafs that I bought, as well as all the odds and ends, and then also, you know, wheels and tires, the winch, the bumpers, things like that. So I think I'm around 15 to 20,000, and that is just cash money that I put in. That has no labor included, because the labor in this is just insane if I added it up. Simon Brooks asks, what brand is the reduction box? So the reduction gearbox is a Northwest Fab black box. Northwest Fab is the company, and they're in BC, Canada. Your Gazisser asks, which engine did you put in your Cruiser? So I've used the Nissan Leaf EM57 electric motor. That's what powers the Land Cruiser, and it makes about 100 horsepower and about 200 foot-pounds of torque, which seems about half of what it should make. The original 6-cylinder engine in this Cruiser made about 212 horsepower, I believe, and around 200 change foot-pounds of torque as well. So on paper, we have half the horsepower, the same torque, but in the reality, it's basically a good swap, a good apples to apples comparison, because the gas engine has about a 5,000 RPM power band from 1,000 RPM to 6,000 RPM, and the electric motor in the Leaf has more than double that. It goes from 0 RPM to 11,000 RPM. Because of that, we can add a reduction gearbox to take advantage of that extra RPM to basically get the same seat of the pants feel. So the acceleration on this truck is very similar to stock. It might. Boobies Butts asks, we really need to work on making the EV conversion process more mainstream and affordable. Yeah, definitely. I mean, right now we're in the very early days, so what we're doing now is the same thing that the hot rodders were doing back in like the 30s, the 40s, and the 50s, when they were using like post-war vehicles and building cars and using new technology like turbochargers and superchargers and different fuels. Right, we're really on the cutting edge of that now. So we're taking a gas vehicle and converting it to electric that it was never meant to be electric. So basically, this is where I kind of want to have my company come in and offer adapter plates and battery boxes and different custom fit solutions, so that if you have a Land Cruiser at home, or if you've got another car, Honda or Miata or something cool, and you want to convert it to electric, you can go on the internet and click and download and click and buy parts to go ahead and convert cars to yourself. There's definitely more people who are going to offer it as a service, but right now the amount of labor involved is just so high because every single build is basically like a one-of-one bespoke, unique vehicle. Whereas if we can get some of these parts stamped out in CAD, then it becomes a lot more affordable to convert vehicles. I think also if there was some sort of subsidy available, right now you can get an electric vehicle subsidy for a new electric vehicle, but you can't get one for a used electric vehicle, and you also cannot get one to convert a vehicle from gas to electric, which I think that's what the government should be focused on, because there's millions of vehicles on the road right now and they're burning gas and leaking oil and things like that. And if you can convert those vehicles to electric, now you are saving all of that energy that goes into the production of a new vehicle. Because even the cleanest, greenest new vehicles, it still takes tons and tons of CO2 to be released in the atmosphere from that manufacturing process, and it uses thousands of gallons of clean fresh water, and that's just some of the natural resources that it takes to actually manufacture, like for instance a Tesla or a new Nissan Leaf. So if you can use something that's already out there, already exists, the sunk costs have already been sunk, I think that's much more clean, green for the environment. So that's my vision, at least. Philip Springer says, definitely need more of this video series. Already seen it drive in the snow under its own power, so we are missing some steps. This is like the South Park method. Step 1, panty raid. Step 2, question marks. Step 3, profit. It seems like we're on step 2. Yeah, I totally understand what you're saying. I did that video on New Year's because it was snowing and the cruiser was running. That was the week right after I got the Land Cruiser running for the first time, because I had to be out of my shop space by the end of the year, December 31st. So I got the truck here at home, and I was just running all over the place, so it was crazy. But then New Year's came and it was just a relaxing day. I didn't have anything to do, so we went for a little drive. But I understand where you were looking at my one video and you're like, this truck's in a million pieces. The next video it's running and driving. Where is that step 2? So again, put out the call. If anybody has video editing skills they want to help me out with, get me back on track, I would really appreciate that. Just reach out to me in the comments, or I'll put up my email address on the screen here. Kiala, how, I think that's how you sell. Did you sell the engine? Is it for sale? Yes, I sold the engine. I keep getting this question and other questions like it. Do you have this part? Did you sell that part? Do you have these parts? I sold just about every part from the Land Cruiser. I only have a couple things on the shelf, just some little interior pieces and things. I actually got rid of the exhaust yesterday, and that was like the last main component from this truck. But yes, I sold all of the pieces. So when I pulled this engine out, I actually had pre-sold the engine before I even pulled it out of this truck. So there was no going back. This truck was destined to be electric from the very beginning. Crypto Slice of Life asks, how much does the electric motor cost? So good question. The electric motors are actually pretty cheap. If you just went on eBay right now and you wanted to buy the EM57, the Nissan Leaf motor, it's about $500. You could probably get them for less than that, but if you just want to click buy it now, you'll pay about $500, and that's with shipping. So really not that expensive at all. And if you buy a full Nissan Leaf, that's where I think the value really comes in, as long as you can get a good deal. It seems like the prices on wrecked Leafs have gone up since I started this conversion, because a lot of other people came up with the same idea. But I was able to buy my Nissan Leaf for $3,500, and so that gave me the motor, the chargers, the inverter, the battery, all the wiring harnesses that I needed, and some other components like that. And then also I had parts I could sell. I sold the wheels and tires, sold some of the doors, sold the rear hatchback. So really not very much money at all. Andrew DeLise asks, I have the same truck with almost 300,000 miles on the odometer. I love it, but would love to convert it to electric. Have you finished this project? Would you be willing to do another one, and how much would you charge to do it? So right now, I am looking into doing that as a service. Firstly, this truck is not what I would call complete. There's still a lot of little small loose ends I want to finish up, and then also we had a little vibration, as you can see in that New Year's Day video. And so what I'm doing now is I'm re-engineering the drivetrain to eliminate that vibration. So I'm going to be CNCing some parts out for the adapter. I'm going to design in CAD a battery box. This battery box I built by hand, but I'll be CNCing and making all these parts available, and I'll sell them. And so I think what I'm going to do first is have the parts available. So if you, Andrew, want to convert your truck yourself, you can go ahead and buy those parts. Otherwise, what I'll be doing is probably not till next year, but I'll be looking for customers to bring their vehicles to me, and I will convert them to electric, just like this truck. As far as how much that costs, that's a really big question right now. As I said, the parts, you can get it, all the parts maybe, for 15 to 20. That's like on the very low end, 15 to 20,000. And again, that's 100 horsepower and 30 kilowatts. So this is a truck that's going to be limited in range and limited in power. If you wanted to really explore the capabilities of an EV conversion on a vehicle like this, I would suggest minimum 100 kilowatt hours of battery, and minimum the Gen 2 Nissan Leaf motor, which makes 200 horsepower. So with 120 or 100 to 120 kilowatt hours in this truck, then you could easily go over 100 miles range, probably closer to 150 in the city, and that would make it much more usable for someone who wants to pay to have this conversion done. I think that would be more reasonable. The problem is that's going to more than double the cost of just the components. To get 100 kilowatt hours of batteries is about $20,000 and up. So it's very expensive. And then of course the labor costs. So realistically, all in for an electric conversion like this, we're talking $60,000, $70,000 at the absolute minimum. It's really not inexpensive at all. It's a lot of work, and lithium batteries are very expensive. So that's just the reality of it. Hopefully that'll change. You know, the more EVs they sell, the new technologies, the battery technologies, maybe these lithium batteries will be worth pennies on the dollar in a couple of years, and then it'll be a lot more cost, make a lot more sense. So Turner Sanders asks, have you driven it enough to determine the actual mileage range you get on a full charge? If so, what's the range? So no, I haven't driven it enough, but I have a good idea. Like I said, about 60 to 70 miles. And I think I can increase that a little bit by doing some tweaks to the power steering pump, the brake pump, things like that. So about 60 to 70 miles, which is about 2 to 2.5 miles per kilowatt hour, which is kind of a standard, kind of like miles per gallon. And that's interesting because the Rivian, the Ford F-150 Lightning, and the Hummer, I think they also get around that 2 to 2.5 miles per kilowatt hour when you're just driving around in town. So, and then out on the trail, when I'm off-road, I was getting about half that range, so about 30 miles. And that equals about 1 to 1.5 miles per kilowatt hour. So, and that is also similar to what the Rivian and the F-150 and the Hummer get off-road. So it's really cool that the efficiency of this truck is not horrible. It's about 10 or maybe 20% worse than those vehicles, but those vehicles are, you know, upwards of $80,000 and have all the newest technology, and this is something I built myself. So it's kind of cool how the efficiency kind of works out that way. Matthew Vazirzadeh asks, more videos. Yeah, I know. I'm really sorry. That's why I wanted to do this video, because it's something I can just knock out real quick. And like I said, I'm putting out a request again. If anybody has any video editing skills and you want to give me a hand, reach out to me. Your favorite Martian asks, hey, I love what you're doing on the West Coast. I have a 2007 FJ Cruiser and want to do an EV conversion and de-icify my truck. Is the drivetrain the same as your Land Cruiser? I'm looking to give her a similar power and about 200-mile range. Thoughts? So FJ Cruisers are super cool, really quirky, little fun-looking, really cool off-road capable truck. I think it would be a good conversion. It's smaller. I think they're probably a little bit lighter than my Land Cruiser, maybe not. I think you're going to run into some more issues, like it's a newer vehicle, so you're going to have to probably either live with dashboard warning lights, or you'll have to fool some of the computers, like the traction control, the ABS, and maybe even like the airbag systems and stuff. to actually get it to work without the engine and the ECU, as well as the four-wheel drive system. I don't know how that works on the Land Cruiser. It's fully mechanical. You just shift the shifter, whereas I think on the FJ Cruisers, maybe it's like a push button thing. I could be wrong about that. But those are some of the issues you might work with just because it's a newer vehicle. I think it would make a good conversion. For 200 miles of range, you're going to need at least 100, 120, maybe 150 kilowatt hours of battery, which is a lot of batteries. That's like 1,000 pounds or more of battery. And I don't know where you would fit that in the FJ Cruiser because it's such a small vehicle. You obviously will still have the gas tank area, the area where the engine is, things like that, but the FJ's considerably smaller, and it's a V6 versus an inline 6. So an inline 6 by nature is longer than a V6. So you might have issues with where you're going to fit everything. Christian Kavanaugh asks, thank you for your work. I am looking at converting my 1971 F100 4x4 to electric, and this is a big help. Really cool truck. Check out TFL, the Fast Lane, because they actually built their own EV out of a F100. I believe it like a 70s F100. It's orange and it's super cool. They had Legacy EV down in Phoenix help them out with it. So check out TFL, really cool truck. Rob English asks, cool project. Would be interesting to see the net increase, decrease in weight after the engine, gearbox, tank, exhaust pipe, etc. goes out and electric motor and batteries go in. Good news, I actually weighed this vehicle. So you remember my original video, we weighed this truck at 5,080 pounds. Well, as you see it sitting right now, it's 5,180 pounds. So this truck is exactly 100 pounds heavier than when it was stock. But as you can also see, we've got 33-inch tires, we've got steel front and rear bumpers with a winch, and we've got the roof rack with solar panels. So, and it's only 100 pounds heavier. So in reality, that means if we had the stock wheels and tires, the stock bumpers, and no roof rack, we would be less weight than it was stock. And the key to that is because the engine we pulled out of this truck is cast iron block, and the engine itself weighs like 700 pounds just on its own, and it's just gone. So that's a benefit of choosing a vehicle like this that has a heavy iron block engine, is when you pull that out and you add electric batteries and stuff, your weight isn't going to increase quite so much as if you pulled out like an aluminum block like in that FJ Cruiser. Bastard Durr asks, this is such a badass build. I have a few Land Cruisers but wouldn't dare to do this build. Kudos to you. Would you be interested in selling your Airbox lid for by chance? Need one for my 80. Nope, I already sold the Airbox. Sold that on eBay. That thing went right away. Thanks for the compliment. Yeah, I definitely would not do this to my other cruiser, which is like my baby, and I need that vehicle to start up every single time and drive because it's how I live my life. But I specifically bought this one to do the electric conversion, and yeah, no looking back now. Really happy with it. Joanne Underhill asks, Jimmy, how are you going to reorganize all the EV AC parts in the back of the truck to restore its pickup capabilities? There's no room right now for hauling trees, mulch, and other stuff. So this is a question about my silver Toyota pickup truck, and yeah, all the electronics are in the back, that clamshell. So I think right now what I'm going to have to do is rearrange those components either underneath the vehicle or underneath the hood. And I'm also going to have to re-engineer where the batteries go, because that truck originally, all of the lead acid batteries were supposed to be under the hood, but there's really not enough room to fit as many batteries as that truck needs to get over 100 miles range. So I'm going to have to basically re-engineer that entire truck. It should be an interesting truck when completed, because yeah, like Joanne says, we need to have trees and mulch in the back, otherwise it's not really a pickup truck, right? Andre Thibodeau, sorry if I messed that up, says, nice, have you sourced a replacement windshield yet? If not, you could try checking the GM H-body forums, Monza, Sunbird, etc. Yes, that's in regards to my 1979 electric, or 1982 electric, and yes, I did find a windshield for that car. I got it out of a Monza, and I got some new old stock, so I got a brand new windshield ready to go in it, but I realized I can't put a windshield in it until I do the body work and really the interior. I need to basically restore the entire thing before I can put the windshield in. BLA says, what about eliminating the clutch and flywheel completely? So this is also about the electric, and yeah, that's totally doable. You can remove the clutch and flywheel. It's not really needed. The reason I didn't do that is just because I wanted to put it back together how it came to me and keep it in original condition. I want to keep that car as close to like a full restoration original as I can. Obviously we'll upgrade the batteries, and it's got new tires and things like that, but I really want it to be as close to how Unique Mobility built those cars when they were new and they used a clutch, so I want to keep that. Andre asks again, here in California there's a process where you can get your conversion inspected and get your vehicle exempted from future emissions testing. It's a pain in the butt, but it's possible. Does Colorado have something similar? Yes, Colorado has like an identical program. So what I need to do is drive this vehicle down to my DMV office, and they'll do an inspection on it. They'll make sure that it has none of the fuel components, so no gas engine, no gas tank, fuel lines have all been removed, the evaporation canister, all that stuff is gone. They'll check it off. They'll make sure that I really did convert it to electric, and I'm not just trying to fool them. It's got the battery and motor. They'll check all that, and then they'll basically go into the Colorado DMV computer system, and they'll change the vehicle from being titled as a gasoline vehicle to being titled as an electric vehicle. And then I'll get a little sticker that I can put on my windshield, and that'll let me plug in at public chargers. And also I will be exempted from any emissions testing. So from then on, I'll just have to pay my registration fee every year and drive the vehicle as much as I want. Now, there's a little caveat to that, because since I'm not paying gas tax, the state of Colorado is going to charge me a little bit extra in my registration fees every year. So I get the privilege of paying more. So Johan Emblemsvag asks, what a cool little EV. Are you planning to implement Chadamo Charging in this, or just the Leaf battery pack? So this is about my electric also, and I think I want to try to put Chadamo Charging on that. I want to do level 2 public charging in Chadamo if I can, or CCS. I'm not sure if it's possible, because that car is going to have a lot lower voltage. It'll only be 120 volts maximum. So we'll see. We'll cross that bridge when I get to it. Jack Myers asks, why does the rear end have a coil spring struts, and I saw another coil spring? Yeah, so the rear on this electric is kind of goofy because it has 2 springs, and the reason for that is because it's based on the Volkswagen Rabbit, and the Volkswagen Rabbit is much lighter in the rear end, especially because remember the electric has 1,000 pounds of battery, and it is shared between the front and rear equally, and then also it has space for 2 adults in the rear. So the electric rear suspension has to take a lot more weight than the Volkswagen Rabbit, so they added a second spring to do that. And Adriano asks about the electric also, any news on why the DC to DC converter wasn't working? I'm not sure. I think there's something internally wrong with that. Jim McCullough was telling me that they commonly failed. It was rated to such and such amps and volts, and the load that the car put on it was just under that, so it was really working at like 90% of its maximum capacity all the time. And it's also it's old components, and it was not, he was telling me it's not engineered as well as a controller, just cost saving measures. So they were a common failure. Most of the electrics that I've seen have an issue with that DC to DC converter. Jim told me a few more things to check. I just haven't checked them yet. Like there's some more fuses on the inside of the controller that normally do not blow, but if there's further issues, then maybe they would. But I think for this car, the most reliable, the best option is just to use a modern DC to DC converter. I can get one that's literally like this big, and it weighs nothing, and it'll do more amps than that one, and I can adjust it digitally to the exact voltage I want, things like that. So I think that's the best to use on this car. And then Gaming 99 asks, how did you actually come into possession of this thing? Now that was the electric again, and I found it on Craigslist. What can I say? It was listed up there on Craigslist for $500, and called the guy, made a deal, went and picked it up. So really, same way I found this car, on Craigslist. So they're out there. If you get on your local Craigslist and you just search EV, you might be surprised at what you come up with. A lot of these malaise era EVs are coming up for sale, like the city car, the electrics. I've seen a few of those pop up, and some of the conversions, like the Chrysler did a couple conversion quasi-production cars in the 80s, and some of those are starting to come up for sale. So those would be a really cool project as well, because it's the same story as with the electric. Everything there is good except the batteries. The batteries were absolute crap. So if you put some modern batteries in it, you can actually make the car into a pretty decent little car. So I think that's it. That's the last of my questions today. So I want to thank you again for subscribing and watching these videos. And again, I'm really sorry for the delay in not having videos recently, or really anytime soon. Again, I put out that call for help. If you want to get involved or help me with my video editing, please let me know. I'm in Colorado, so I think it would be easiest if somebody who's also here in the Denver area. Otherwise, I'm sure we can do something on the cloud or whatever. But wanted to give you a little update. I want to take you through the whole process of this Land Cruiser conversion. I just haven't had the time to get all the videos edited and put up. So hopefully we'll turn that around shortly. Now that the winter's coming and the weather will keep me from working outdoors, maybe I'll put a little bit more time and effort into that. So thanks again, thanks for watching, and stay tuned, tell your friends. Right now we just passed 1,000 subscribers. That's super cool. I really am stoked on that, because I haven't even been uploading the last couple months and people are still finding the channel and finding relevant information. So really cool, really happy about that. So again, thanks for watching Unique Mobility, and if you do want to have some more updates on the Land Cruiser, again, check out my Instagram at electric_land_cruiser. Thanks for watching.